I want to remind you today that silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. In this noisy world, where everyone is eager to speak, to defend, to justify, and to argue, silence is often seen as a passive response. But I want to tell you that there is power in silence. There is divine strength in knowing when to speak and when to hold your peace. Sometimes the greatest battles are won not by fighting, not by defending yourself, but by standing still and allowing God to fight for you. When you choose silence in the face of opposition, when you choose to let go of unnecessary battles, you are not giving up. You are standing in faith. You are saying, God, I trust you. I trust I trust that you will be my defense. Many times in life, we feel the need to explain ourselves. We feel the urge to prove to people that we are right, to make them understand our intentions, to clarify the truth. But here's the reality. Not everyone will understand you, and not everyone is meant to. There are people who, no matter how much you try to explain, will still twist your words. There are situations where the more you speak, the worse situations. That's because not every battle is meant for you to fight. Not every criticism deserves your response. Not every accusation needs your defense. The enemy's strategy is to get you distracted, to pull you into unnecessary conflicts, to wear you out with endless explanations. But you are not called to live a life of exhaustion, constantly trying to prove yourself. You are called to live in peace. You are called to walk in wisdom. And wisdom knows that silence is often the best answer. Jesus himself understood the power of silence. When he was falsely accused before Pilate, when people shouted against him, when he was ridiculed and mocked, he did not argue. He did not try to justify himself. Matthew 27:14 says, "But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge." To the great amazement of the governor. Imagine that. The Son of God, standing there with all the power of heaven at his disposal, chose to be silent. Why? Because he understood something we often forget. His destiny was not in the hands of those who accused him. His purpose was not determined by the voices of his enemies. And the same is true for you. You don't have to respond to every attack. You don't have to fight every battle. When you know who you are, when you are secure in what God has spoken over your life, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your silence is your strength. The Bible says in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Think about that. Some of you are fighting battles that God never asked you to fight. You are defending yourself in conversations that God never called you to be a part of. You are spending your energy trying to prove your worth to people who will never see your value. But God is saying, be still. Let me handle it. Let me fight for you. When you hold your peace, when you stop trying to justify yourself, when you let go of the need to explain, you are positioning yourself for victory. Because God's ways are higher than our ways. His plans are greater than our plans. And when he fights for you, he will bring justice in ways you could never imagine. There are some things in life that are too valuable to be shared with just anyone. Not everyone deserves to know your dreams. Not everyone needs to hear your plans. Sometimes we talk too much. We share too much. We reveal too much to people who were never meant to hear it. And when we do that, we invite unnecessary opposition. Jesus said in Matthew 7:6, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet. turn and tear you to pieces. What does this mean? It means that not everyone will appreciate what God has placed inside of you. Not everyone will understand your vision. Some people will mock it. Some will try to destroy it. Some will use your own words against. And that is why wisdom tells us to be selective with what we share and with whom we share it. Look at Joseph in the Bible. God gave him a dream, a powerful, prophetic vision of his future. He told his brothers, and what happened? Instead of celebrating with him, they became jealous. Instead of supporting him, they plotted against him. They threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery. Joseph's mistake was not having the dream. It was revealing it to the wrong people at the wrong time. And sometimes we do the same thing. We get excited about what God is doing, and we share it prematurely. We talk about our plans before they have a chance to take root. And then we wonder why we face so much opposition. The enemy cannot stop what God has planned for you, but he can try to delay it. And one of his strategies is to use the people around you to discourage you, to plant doubt, to create obstacles. That is why you have to learn to protect what God has given you. Hold your dreams close. Keep your plans private until the time is right. Let God establish you before you announce yourself. Some of you are going through situations right now where you feel misunderstood. People are talking about you. They are misjudging you. They don't see your heart, and you feel the need to set the record straight. But can I tell you something? You don't have to. You don't have to fight that battle. You don't have to defend yourself. God sees. God knows. In the right time, he will vindicate you. He will make the truth known. He will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. You don't have to waste your energy trying to explain yourself to people who have already made up their minds about you. Save that energy for what really matters. Invest it in your purpose. Use it to move forward, not to fight battles that lead nowhere. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, they tried to pull him into their drama. But Nehemiah refused to come down from the work God had given him. In Nehemiah 6:3, he said, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. That needs to be your mindset. You are doing a great work. You are building something for God. You are walking in your calling. You don't have time for petty arguments. You don't have time for drama. You don't have time to explain yourself to people who don't want to understand. Keep building. Keep moving forward. Let your success be your response. Let your growth be your defense. Let God handle the rest. So today, I challenge you. Embrace the power of silence. Stop wasting words on people who don't deserve. Stop fighting battles that don't matter. Stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand. Trust God to defend you. Trust Him to fight for you. When you stay silent, you are not losing. You are winning in the Spirit. You are standing in faith. You are saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my own need to be understood. And when you do that, you position yourself for greater victories. Let go of the need to be right. Let go of the need. Choose peace over pride. Choose wisdom over impulse. And watch as God lifts you up in due time. The battle is not yours. It belongs to the Lord. Stay silent. Stay faithful. And let God do what only He can do. There is a wisdom that few understand, a power that is often overlooked, a strength that is rarely recognized. It is the power of silence. In a world that demands explanations, in a society that thrives on constant chatter, in a culture where everyone feels the need to voice their opinions and prove their point, silence is seen as weakness. But in reality, silence is one of the greatest strengths you can possess. It is a shield, a weapon, and a strategy. It is a sign of wisdom, maturity, and faith. When you know when to remain silent, you are operating from a place of spiritual authority. You are not controlled by emotions. You are not swayed by the opinions of others. You are not distracted by battles. You are not to serve your energy. Instead, you are standing firm, anchored in the confidence that God is your defender, that He is your vindicator, that He is the one who will fight your battle. One of the greatest traps the enemy sets for God's chosen ones is the temptation to react, to defend, to explain, and to argue. He knows that if he can pull you into a battle of words, he can drain you of your energy, he can distract you from your purpose, and he can weaken your spirit. But when you choose silence, you disarm the enemy. When you refuse to engage in fruitless arguments, when you refuse to justify yourself to those who have already made up their minds about you, you are taking the higher ground. You are choosing wisdom over impulse, peace over chaos, purpose over distraction. Some battles are won not by fighting, but by refusing to fight. Some victories come not through shouting, but through silence. Jesus demonstrated this power when he stood before his accusers. He was falsely accused. He was slandered. He was mocked. He was mocked. The religious leaders, the Pharisees, the Roman officials, each of them tried to provoke him, to get him to defend himself, to make him react. But Matthew 27:14 says, "But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor." Think about that for a moment. The Son of God, the King of Kings, the one with all power in heaven and on earth, stood there in silence. Why? Because he understood that some battles are not meant to be fought in words. He knew that the people accusing him were not seeking truth. They were seeking to trap him. He knew that no amount of explanation would change their hearts. He knew that his mission was greater than their opinions, and so he remained silent. That same wisdom applies to you today. There will be people in your life who will misunderstand you. There will be people who will misjudge your intentions. There will be those who twist your words, who question your motives, And your instinct may be to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to make them see the truth. But let me remind you, not everyone deserves your explanation. Not everyone is capable of receiving your truth. Not every battle. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain silent. Sometimes silence is not avoidance. It is wisdom. Sometimes silence is not surrender. It is strategy. When you refuse to engage with those who do not seek understanding, when you hold your peace instead of reacting in anger or frustration, you are walking in divine wisdom. Proverbs 17:28 says, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues." There's a strength in restraint. Many times we feel the need to respond immediately. We feel the pressure to explain ourselves, to prove our innocence, to make others see things from our perspective. But when you are truly confident in who you are and in what God has spoken over your life, you do not need to justify yourself to anyone. Your silence speaks louder than words. Your actions will prove the truth in time. And God himself will be your defense. Look at Joseph in the Bible. God gave him a dream, a vision of his future, a glimpse of the destiny that awaited him. But Joseph made the mistake of sharing his dream too soon. He told his brothers, and instead of celebrating with him, they became jealous. They hated him. They plotted against him. They sold him into slavery. Joseph's dream was real. His calling was legitimate, but he revealed it before it was time. He spoke before he understood the wisdom of silence. And because of that, he suffered betrayal and hardship. But here's the powerful part. Even in his suffering, even in his trials, God was with him. And in the right time, God elevated him. He became second in command over all of Egypt. The very people who once betrayed him had to come to him for help. His dream was fulfilled, not through his words, not through his explanations, but through God's perfect time. Some of you have dreams that God has placed in your heart. You have visions of where he is taking you. But you must learn to protect them. Not everyone will celebrate you. Not everyone will understand your journey. And if you share too soon, you may invite unnecessary opposition. The enemy is always looking for ways to sabotage what God is doing in your life. And one of the ways he does that is by using the people around you. The doubters, the skeptics, the jealous ones. To plant seeds of discouragement. To create obstacles. To try to derail your purpose. That is why wisdom says, hold your peace. Keep your vision between you and God until the right time. Let him establish you in private before you announce yourself in public. Nehemiah understood this principle. When he set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, his enemies tried to stop him. They mocked him. They sent threats. They tried to lure him into useless debates. But Nehemiah refused to come down from the work God had given him. In Nehemiah 6:3, he said, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. That needs to be your mindset. You are doing a great work. You don't have time for petty arguments. You don't have time for drama. You don't have time to explain yourself to those who will never understand. Stay focused. Keep building. Let your success speak for itself. Let your obedience to God be your testimony. Let your silence be your strength. There is another reason why silence is powerful. It keeps you in a place of peace. Many times our greatest source of stress is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it. The arguments, the conflicts, the back and forth conversations, these things drain our energy. They pull us into a cycle of frustration and distraction. But when you learn to remain silent, when you learn to choose peace over conflict, you keep your spirit strong. Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. When you trust God to be your defender, when you trust him to fight your battles, you can walk in peace. You don't have to carry the burden of explaining yourself to everyone. You don't have to waste your energy proving yourself. You can rest in the assurance that God sees, that he knows, and that in his perfect timing, he will make all things right. So today, I challenge you. Embrace the power of silence. Stop giving your energy to arguments that don't matter. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation. Stop fighting battles that God never called you to fight. Instead, walk in wisdom. Choose peace over conflict. Let your success speak louder than your word. Trust that God will be your defender. When you do this, you will find strength. You will find clarity. You will find that the less you speak, the more God moves on your behalf. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom. It is a weapon. And when you use it correctly, you will see victory in ways you never imagined. When you truly understand the power of silence, you no longer feel the need to justify yourself, to prove your worth, or to explain your every move. You step into a higher level of wisdom, a level where your confidence is no longer based on what others think, but on what God has already spoken over your life. Silence is not just the absence of words. It is a strategy, a defense, a declaration of faith. When you remain silent in the face of opposition, you are telling the enemy, you are declaring that your battles are not fought with words, but with faith, with obedience, and with the assurance that God is working on your behalf. There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than words. Have you ever noticed how the strongest, most confident people don't waste time engaging in unnecessary arguments? They don't chase after every rumor. They don't feel the need to correct every misunderstanding. Because they understand that the truth will always reveal itself in time. When you truly trust in God, you don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to defend yourself against false accusation. You don't have to react to every criticism. Instead, you stay focused. You keep moving forward. You let your actions, your consistency, and your faithfulness do the talking. One of the greatest examples of this principle is Jesus himself. He was accused, mocked, and misrepresented, but he did not waste his breath trying to convince people of who he was. He knew that his purpose was greater than their opinions. He knew that explaining himself would not change the hearts of those who had already made up their minds. So he remained silent, and in the end, his silence spoke volumes. His resurrection was the only response he needed. His victory was his ultimate vindication. In the same way, your success, your growth, your faithfulness to God, these will be your answers to every false accusation, every misunderstanding, and every attack. People will talk. They will question your decisions. They will criticize your choices. They will try to pull you into unnecessary battles, but you don't have to respond. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to fight every battle with words. Instead, choose wisdom. Choose peace. Let God fight for you. When you learn to stay silent in the right moments, you are protecting your energy, your peace, and your purpose. You are refusing to be distracted by battles that don't serve your destiny. Think about the times in your life when you wasted energy trying to explain yourself to people who were never going to understand. Think about the times when you engaged in arguments that only left you feeling drained and discouraged. Now imagine what would have happened if you had simply remained silent, if you had walked away, if you had trusted that time would reveal the truth. Silence is not about giving up. It's about letting go. It's about surrendering the need to control how others see you and choosing instead to trust that God is your defender. Proverbs 17:27 says, "The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even tempered." This means that wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Not every situation requires a response. Not every accusation needs to be addressed. Some things are best left unanswered, because the moment you engage in a battle of words, you give it power over you. But when you refuse to respond, when you stand firm in silence, you take back control. You show that you are not easily shaken. You show that your confidence is in something greater. Think about Joseph. When his brothers betrayed him, when he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, He could have spent his days trying to defend himself. He could have fought to clear his name, but he didn't. He trusted God, and in the right time, God elevated him. God brought justice. God placed him in a position where the very people who betrayed him had to come to him for help. Joseph didn't need to fight for himself. God fought for him. And when you choose silence over unnecessary battles, God will do the same for you. Your silence is a sign of your strength. It is a sign of your trust in God. It is a declaration that you will not be controlled by the noise around you. When people try to provoke you, when they spread rumors, when they twist your words, stay silent. Let your character speak for itself. Let your consistency prove your integrity. Let your life be the answer. The enemy wants you to react because he knows that reaction drains you. But when you refuse to engage, when you choose wisdom over impulse, you are walking in spirit. You are taking the higher ground. One of the most powerful things you can do is to learn the art of selective silence. Not everything needs your response. Not every situation requires your words. Jesus himself said in Matthew 7:6, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. What does this mean? It means that your words, your wisdom, your energy, these are valuable. And not everyone deserves access to them. There are people who will never understand you, no matter how much you explain. There are people who will twist your words, no matter how carefully you choose them. There are people who will reject your truth, no matter how sincerely you offer it. And when you recognize this, you stop wasting your breath. You stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop casting your pearls before swine. Instead, you focus on what truly matters. You invest your energy in what brings you peace. You use your words where they will have the most impact, and you let God handle the rest. When you do this, you will find that you have more clarity, more peace, and more strength. You will no longer feel drained by unnecessary battle. You will no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You will walk in confidence, knowing that God is your vindicator. And here's the beautiful part. When you embrace the power of silence, you begin to hear God more clearly. The noise of the world fades away. The distractions lose their grip, and you enter into a place of divine peace and wisdom. Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. When you are still, when you are silent, you make space for God to move. You allow him to fight your battles. You will allow him to reveal the truth in his perfect timing. And that is where true victory is found. So today, make the decision to stop wasting your energy on unnecessary words. Choose your battles wisely. Protect your peace. Walk in wisdom. And trust that God will handle what you cannot. Because when you remain silent in the right moments, when you refuse to be pulled into battles that don't serve you, when you trust God to be your defender, you will find strength that the world cannot take away. You will rise above the noise. You will walk in divine wisdom, and you will see God move in your life in ways you never imagined. When you learn the power of silence, you step into a realm of authority that few ever reach. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to fight battles with words, or to seek validation from those who will never understand you. Instead, you move with wisdom, guarding your energy, preserving your peace, and letting God be your defender. There is incredible strength in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is discernment. It is refusing to waste your breath on those who are not ready to receive what God has placed inside you. Jesus himself demonstrated this when he stood before Pilate. Accused, mocked, questioned, yet he did not answer. He did not waste time. He did not waste time defending himself to a man who had no power over his destiny. He remained silent because he knew that God was in control. His silence was not defeat. It was victory. His silence spoke louder than any argument ever could. In the same way, when you choose to remain silent in the face of opposition, you are declaring that your faith is in something greater. You are saying, I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to defend myself. God will do it for me. There are people in your life who will try to provoke you, who will twist your words, who will demand explanations. You do not owe them. The enemy wants you to react because he knows that reaction drains you. But when you refuse to engage, when you hold your peace, you take back control. You rise above the noise. You show that your confidence is in God, not in the opinions of people. When you stay silent, you confuse the enemy. He expects you to argue, to defend, to justify. But instead, you walk away with your dignity intact, knowing that the truth will always reveal itself in time. Not every battle is meant to be fought with words. Some battles are won through silence. Some victories come when you refuse to be distracted, when you refuse to be pulled into unnecessary debates. There is wisdom in walking away. There is power in holding your tongue. When you stop trying to prove yourself, when you stop casting your pearls before swine, you protect your purpose. You safeguard your destiny. You walk in a peace that cannot be shaken. You don't need to explain your calling to everyone. You don't need to justify the favor on your life. You don't need to defend what God is doing in you. The right people will see it. The right people will understand. And those who don't, they were never meant to be part of your journey. Let your life speak. Let your fruit be your answer. Let your consistency be your defense. Because when God is for you, no accusation, no criticism, no misunderstanding. Stop draining your energy on battles that don't matter. Walk in wisdom. Walk in confidence. Walk in the quiet assurance that God is fighting for you. In the stillness, in the silence, in the moments when you refuse to be pulled into chaos, God is working. He is revealing the truth. He is making a way. He is elevating you beyond what words could ever accomplish. Let your silence be your strength. Let your faith be louder than your defense. Let your peace be your greatest response. Because when you trust in God, you don't have to say a word. Your victory will speak for itself.